about, there it is, the 10 leading causes of death by age group. And you can look at it on here, Congressman. That's right there. And knowledge is power. And if you see where homicides are from the ages up to 1, 5, and 10, it's like number 4. But when you get to 15, homicides moves up to the number 3 cause of death. And you got suicide, then you got unintentional injury. And this website is by the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. And when you get to 25, it's still there. But after that age, it drops down. So we're trying to get our young people up to 35, and this section here, once you get there, is to start thinking about, like that gentleman said, what you eat, because we're killing ourselves by poor health, nutrition choices. And if we're going to have a stronger men and stronger families, we've got to understand that eating health gets you health. The Congressman talked about one of our leaders, Dennis Deere, who just passed away, and one of his initiatives was food is medicine before he died. So it's up to us to take on that legacy, so I'm trying to help keep that moving forward. I interviewed him about a month ago before he passed away, and I've got, some of his points on it. Are you the doctor that's on this panel? Oh, no. Okay. But I'm not a doctor, but I'm a practitioner. I've lived healthy, and I'm a living witness for people to see and to know what I have done. And the first thing I did, because I was out there and I was using drugs and everything, then I say, hey, I got to reverse what I have done to myself and done to the community. And so when I was 24 years old, that's when I changed to stop eating meat. And I have found, and I read in the Bible, chapter 1, Genesis, see, I've given you every green herb, to you it shall be for meat, and every fruit in the tree which has a seed in it, it shall be food for you. And I said, well, God said, and then I was working for Commonwealth Edison in the engineering drafting department, and he was a vegetarian. I said, well, he's doing it. I'm gonna try this. And God said it, it's working, so I tried it. Now, guarantee, all of you might not be in agreement with it, but I say make a step toward reduce your amounts of meat. Eat more fruits and vegetables. See what it does. They say, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. And see if you have a better health statistics. African Americans have the worst health statistics out of all the races. It's documented. Amen. And it's proof. This is war for life. It's not the typical war of just shooting and killing somebody. It's how do we improve our own situation so that our generations live a better life than we did.
Another question.
And I never used any drugs, but I'm gonna eat it too. I don't eat right, but I do have a garden in my backyard. I ain't got time to have now. My wife just fixed a salad last night, made out of the stuff out of my backyard. She said, I took one of them cucumbers and some of them tomatoes and made a salad. I said, right on, homegirl.
Let me just say we have another person to join our panel, Manuel Nardi. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, I just want to thank you, Congressman, and the whole panel for what you're doing. Is it possible for us here, for one of you to explain the social determinants of health and how health is impacted by other things that we may not think about as being a social determinant? Thank you.
Mr. Nardi?
Yeah, so first off, I want to thank everybody for attending this event. That means you made a conscious decision to try to make the world a better place just by being here. And to answer your question, the truth is, there's no physical health without mental health. The thing about it is, people treat physical health like it's the most important thing, but you're not able to actually move function, and actually get up in the morning without the right mental health. We need to actually apply the same kind of pressure we do with our bodies, with our mind. Because here's the thing, the world, the toll it takes on us is something that rarely anyone will get a full glimpse of what it does to us. You know why? Because we hold it all in. A majority of us hold everything we've been through and everything is done to us inside of us. And it creates a mental toll that keeps building and building and building to the point where it will affect your physical health. But I'm gonna tell you this though, by doing things like this, actually talking to each other, actually sitting down eye to eye and trying to understand where a person is coming from and how they got there, that helps your own journey. That helps your own battle. But I'm also going to tell you that you have to be okay with admitting that you're not okay. Can I run that back? Can I run that back? You have to be okay with admitting to yourself that you're not okay. And that's a conversation in the mirror. But that's also a conversation with God.
Yep.
Because he knows it too. He knows everything that you've been through. So who else are you going to talk to about everything that you've been through? See, it's like we don't fear God anymore because the reality of it is the value of life itself has decreased. We don't hold life to that much of a higher standard anymore. We don't. And that's the reality of the matter, the reality of the life, that the world that we live in right now. It's a selfish world. It's a selfish world. But it's ironic that we don't take time to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
There's no physical health without mental health. And until we get to put that same importance on our mental health with our physical, we're going to always have that mental blocks stopping us from reaching our goals. And that's just the reality.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, he mentioned two things, but there's a third leg onto that. That's the spiritual health. And a lot of us don't have spiritual health. So all three of them are very important: the spirit, the mind, and the body.
And first off, I like to give honor to God, who's the head of my life, right? And it's no coincidence that we're all here today, right? My whole thought today is that in order to eat healthy, we got to have the finances, right? And that's something that we don't think about. As us as Black individuals and everyone else, we don't think about how to save our families. We don't think about how do we put our families first. And one big issue that I've seen in the Black community is that we look at life insurance as a bill. And we don't understand the concept of how that helps our family. Because right now, as we already know, like we are falling off. And so therefore, with those falling off, however you leaving a legacy for your children, however you leaving your kids in poverty, and we can sit here and allow car insurance to be mandatory, but when it comes to life insurance, we're not explaining like the simple facts that is going to help us in the long run. We don't know that that's going to help our children when they grow older. So I think that's something big that we need to speak about in this community, because right now we sit here and we look at it as like, I don't have the money, but we have the money to do whatever it is out there. But that's something that I want to get into. I want to make sure I can push it in whatever way I can.
Please call me and because I agree with you. When I studied public health, and I didn't just arrive at whatever it is that I talk about, I studied public health, and I taught public health at the University of Illinois School of Public Health. And a part of the definition of being healthy is to be able not only to be healthy from the vantage point of living a certain period of time, but also performing societal expectations. And so society expects a person to be able to bury themselves when they die. I'm saying that's why we have funeral homes and undertakers and so. So if you ain't got no life insurance and you die a pauper, then you have not fulfilled societal expectations, because society expects you to be able to be buried or cremated. And so when you perform all of what society expects, then you're healthy. Society expects you to vote. You don't vote, you ain't healthy. You partially healthy, but if you're not fulfilling societal's expectations, you ain't considered healthy. Because health includes all of that. And so please, I'd love to get more engaged. We do something in our health group called End of Life. That is, we hold town hall meetings. We meet with people, with funeral home people and insurance people. As people prepare for life, they should also prepare for death. And even though the preacher says at funerals and read from the Bible, let us not be ignorant of those who sleep, he's also suggesting that when people go to sleep, we ought to be able to put them away with dignity. And if you ain't got no life insurance, you may have to go to Potter's Field or something. So
Thanks,
please.
Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman. In all of these discussions, there's one thing that I see missing here. Women, black women, die more, black women die in labor than any other race. For every, 50%, of black women who go into labor die in labor because of malpractices and because of the way they are treated in the labor room. Coming from historical things that I do discuss that with my students in my African American Studies class. I want us to find a way to encourage doulas and to find funding to help doulas to help African American women when they are going to have children. Please, is there a way we can get this done?
Please explain doulas. Some people don't know what doulas are.
Doulas are midwives who also have nursing and midwife medical degree background, and they do perform, help women to have their children
Thank you.
home, with help, also working with doctors as well if there's any complication. But they are registered.
The #1 promoter of doulas in the United States of America is a woman named Gwen Moore, who lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She is a member of the House of Representatives, and we hope to go to Wisconsin sometimes before the election in November and work in her district to help Joe Biden get elected president and carry the state of Wisconsin. So you're absolutely right about doulas. I was born by a midwife, as were all of my 10 brothers and sisters. and we managed to hang on for a little bit. So they probably did all right.
All right.
Point of clarification about the doula. A doula is a non-medical support person in the birthing and delivery process, as opposed to a midwife who is a medical professional with training. So there's a distinction. And you're right, doulas are very important because they serve as an advocate in the birthing process.
Some doulas, many of them do have midwife degrees.
Yes, I understand that, but there's a distinction between doulas, who are there for support services in the pregnancy process, because they provide advocacy services. One of the reasons we have such poor health outcomes with black women in birthing is because the medical establishment does not view us as being human. And so, well, that is true based on the research of Dr. Williams, Medical Apartheid. Sir, if you've ever read that, you need to read that book. But so then you should know the history in this country. But the fact of the matter is that doulas are not medical. They are there to provide advocacy services, to speak up for black women, or to speak up for the woman, rather, in the birthing process. I work with a woman who has a master's degree in nursing, and she has a project. It's called the Black Doula Project.
Point of information, we have the former State Director of Health here. Please let him help us.
Is that Dr. Arnold?
Yeah. Hey, how are you doing? Good. No, you're actually correct. Absolutely correct. You know, there are different levels of training, and one of the things that I think we need to be cognizant of is that if you go back about 35 years ago, we had over 360 African American hospitals in the country. Today we have 0. Wow. We've lost all of them. We need to have people trained all the way up the scale to become doctors, nurses, full-fledged medical professionals in this country. And you were talking before about one thing I just wanted to mention is that if you look at your hand determines your destiny, right? And what does your hand do? Your hand pulls the trigger on a gun, or takes a pen to write in a book, or to flip the page of a book. But your mouth is the gateway to 90% of the things that are going to happen in your life. Drugs go through the mouth, cigarette smoke. You start looking at foods that are improper for your body, as the brother was saying before. Most of the things, lead in the water that we're drinking, that's contaminated in our pipes. Most of the things that destroy our body are the things that we put through our mouth. So you have to control this portal. This is the thing that brings things into your body.
The lack of education is why black people suffer so many things. Mm-hmm. We don't eat the right things because we don't know to eat the right things. We may not save money the right way we're supposed to save money because the lack of education is not there. And then priority is another thing. We don't prioritize things that will help us have long lives. The Bible literally says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And we need to get the knowledge. The dissemination of the stupid music that's being released, reality TV and all the crap that does not help our spirit, soul, or body is what's being pressed down these babies' throats, and we wonder why they cannot grow and thrive. So I'm very happy to be amongst people who are trying to make a difference, but we have to start at the foundation and begin to educate the way we used to before they took out the programs back in the 50s where our grandfathers could, retire and have a pension, and they came into schools and took out of the trades. We have to get back to that place of educating, and that way we can produce people who actually are productive in society. God has gifted us with so many things, but the lack of education is the reason why we are suffering, and that's what I want to say.
Malcolm X College is right here. Malcolm X College. Please, young people, take advantage of Malcolm X. Yes, sir. Missionary, give the missionary the mic.
We're speaking of nutrition. We're speaking of what goes into our body. Congressman, can you tell me why the nutrition program was cut off from the black schools after the funding has been approved for so many schools? don't we deserve what has been given to us? Why is the fund cut off for our black children to have the nutrition after school and before school?
Well, the whys always relate to who got the power to do what. See, answering the question of why, you can't answer the question why unless you deal with power. People do whatever they want to do. If they're in position to do it, they decide based upon what they decide. They create based upon what they think is relevant. And so if you are powerless, mistaken powwow for power, then you get what you get. I mean, anybody can come up with an idea. I got some ideas on the table. I'm going to be able to get some money generated for those ideas to be used all over the United States of America for foster children.
Now listen.
We came up with the idea of it. Didn't nobody other than the good Lord. The work that I do with reentry, it started with meeting a guy at the service station one night who just got out of the penitentiary, saying he didn't have nowhere to stay.
Now listen.
And so other than the good Lord who gave me the idea, let's try to create somewhere for people like him to stay when they get out of the penitentiary. And so this country, what makes it the country that it is anybody can take an idea and process that idea. The reason we're talking about doulas right now is because some black members of Congress started talking about doulas. And that's why it's a concept that seems to be re-emerging, and we're putting money into it so that people can get paid to practice that way. And so in America, you can think up when Dr. Arnold talks about all the black hospitals that got closed. Most folks don't know that they ever existed, but they got closed because they did a study and a report, something called the Flexner Report, that said that these hospitals didn't meet the criteria for what a hospital ought to be, that they wasn't good enough, that they didn't have all the credentials there, they didn't have all the equipment, and so all of them got put out of business. Every last one of them.
Yeah.
A few lingered on for a few years and only went out of business a few years ago. But they got put out of business because the accrediting agency said they didn't meet the standards to get a license to practice. And so all of this stuff is linked in together. At the base of it, though, is without the knowledge to do, you ain't gonna do them. There are two ways to get things changed. You can get them changed legally, authoritatively, or you can try to have a revolution. Well, the revolution ain't on TV. I'm saying, that's how change comes about. I mean, change evolves. Sometimes you don't even know when the change came. But if you struggle long enough and hard enough, I remember we didn't have this institution here.
Better listen.
Come on. This school wasn't here. A fellow named Dick Newhouse, who was a state senator, and a fellow in the legislature. We came up with the idea, but they came up with the money.
Better listen.
This didn't fall out the sky. Nothing falls out the sky but rain and snow. And so if you want to create something, create it. Think it up. Do it. Go to it. I remember wasn't no black folks driving in NASCAR.
Better listen.
None. They used to didn't let black folks play Major League Baseball. Of course, we're not old enough to remember, but they didn't. They had the Negro League.
That's right.
Some of the best players that ever played. Double duties, guys who would pitch and catch. Lived over here on the south side of Chicago. I used to go in the McDonald's and talk to him and his little group of buddies until they all died. So change is not automatic. It has to be promoted, and there's no other way to get it.
Right, Globetrotters as well.
Congressman, I want to say this. My name is Wallace Gator Bradley. I'm going to say this in the 1 minute that I got, 50 seconds now. The real talk is this is 2024. And if we don't get out and vote and put people in power and know someone in the other states to come out and vote, it's going to be something called 2025.
It's happening in Wisconsin now, dude.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. So I'm saying this. You can have an idea, but you got to have money. If you ain't got no one there to legislate to get the money, then you don't have nothing. So that's the power. Vote, don't choke.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more panel person who has come on. He's a retired congressman from Nigeria. You want to say something on this before we break for lunch?
All right, thank you very much. I want to share a bit. My name is Simon, Honorable Simon Karu. K-A-R-U is my name. I served in the 9th National Assembly. I represented a small community. I have it in record to have been the youngest who have represented that constituency. And 6 of my bills were youth related. I want to share a different perspective on health. I can see we've been talking about the body since I got in. I wouldn't know what the earlier conversations were. I want to make reference to the fact that health is a frequency. Health is a level of vibration at which we actually have. So, and that's the reason why when you're unhealthy, doctors check your temperature, because that's what gives the reading of the frequency at which your body is vibrating. There are people who hardly fall sick because of the level of vibration they operate on. The mind has a very deep level of impact to the body. And that's the reason why even the Bible says, guard your mind with all diligence, for out of it comes the issues of life. So when you talk about the issues of life, it is not limited to matters of discussion. It is also matters of good health. What you feed the mind on, the body vibrates upon. And that's the reason why when you're cut off in fear, your body shivers, and you could even fall sick instantly. one example of how the mind can affect the body is the life of John Rockefeller, who fell ill at about 51, 52 years old, and he couldn't take anything other than liquids. And he decided to call his lawyers and accountants to have a conversation. And he was given 1 year to leave. He decided to begin charities and scholarships and gratitude, sending signals of gratitude. And he lived well over 90 years of age. That's the magic of what the mind can do to the body. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Simon Peru. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask that you would, when we break for lunch, continue talking to each other about these subjects. Social action, how we can do it. Keep talking about health, how we can individually and collectively get to that point. And if we continue the conversation correctly, we will then come back empowered after lunch, and we will then go back into our next section, which will be on conflict resolution, your role in the community. When you come back, there will be a video presentation and a special group that is going to deal with conflict resolution.
Paul, let me just define what we're talking about, conflict resolution. People get in arguments. People disagree. People see things differently. Many of the individuals who get killed on the streets and get killed in street fights, get killed on the train, get killed on the bus, something is happening to people's behavior where individuals, rather than just saying, pardon me, brother, you stepped on my feet, did you know? Oh, I didn't mean that. Rather than that, Ian, you stepped on my foot, boom. Oh, I didn't intend to do it. Well, that's all right, boom anyhow. Something is happening to people's behavior. There are certain things that you get taught. For example, if you notice, if I have to slip out the room when somebody's speaking, I slip out, because we were taught when I was a child, it's impolite to disturb what's going on. And so I'm cognizant of that. When I go in a church, I be looking for the opportunity to leave before the benediction. I don't want to leave when the preacher is preaching, because it's impolite. If my mama and them hadn't taught me that, I wouldn't know that.
Right.
I just wouldn't know. My mama was the head usher most of the time. And she didn't let you out the door until the benedictions. So you just had to stay there. She said, I got to go to the washroom. You can hold it. Yeah, just be cool. You'll be all right. I'm saying, if you don't teach certain things, how can people know them? Like most of us don't know much about the period of Reconstruction and the right aftermath of slavery, which was very much like the time right now. I'm saying, if you read history, you will discover that the same conversations we're having now are the conversations that took place after slavery and the period of Reconstruction, where they was trying to figure out what to do with the black folks who had been slaves. Much of this election, in the event that people don't know it, has to do what to do with the black folks who are slaves. It's the same discussion, just at a different time. And so anybody walking around here talking about they ain't gonna vote, and then Trump, you'd be an absolute fool not to vote. You'd be a double dog fool to vote for Trump, who wants to take you back to that period of semi-slavery. Even though you've wiggled your way away from it to a great extent. If you take away my chance to go to school and say affirmative action is elite, what is that doing? That's taking away my chance to elevate myself to a different level. You cut my food stamps, and I got 5 little black children trying to feed. No husband, nobody to help take care of them. Their daddy gone or whatever, drugged out or whatever, sick and uneducated, whatever. How am I going to feed them? I'm barely getting enough now. If you cut my Social Security check and I'm only getting $900 a month, how am I going to live? And some folks talking about they ain't gonna do this and they ain't gonna do that. Well, woe be unto us if we do. Paul, thank you for this session. Thank everybody for participating. The only thing wrong, the room was just a little too big for the number of people we had. But other than that, the quality of information, and please know it ain't really, and I appreciated those nice comments some people may have made about me, but it really ain't about me. It ain't about me. It's about us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's about what happens next. So lunch is ready, and let's go eat, I guess.
Return back here at 1:30, please, and please sit close to the front. Thank you.